They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but in the Wild West, some pictures were worth 1,000 lies. Behind the legends of gunslingers and gold rush towns are photographs never meant for public eyes. Rare glimpses of outlaws, pioneers, and forgotten people reveal a far darker truth about America's frontier. Chapter 1: The Myth versus the Reality. The American West lives in myth. Hollywood gave us John Wayne riding into the sunset, stoic sheriffs, and saloons filled with laughter. But rare photographs from the late 1800s tell a different story. Life wasn't cinematic. It was brutal, raw, and unforgiving. Look closely at a sepia photo of a mining camp in Nevada and you won't see prosperity. You'll see men living in tents, shacks made of canvas and scrap wood, faces lined with exhaustion. The gold rush promised riches, but for most, it delivered poverty. Few ever struck it rich. Many died penniless, their bodies buried in unmarked graves under desert skies. Another forgotten photo captures the mud-slick streets of Dodge City. No glamorous saloon girls in feathers, no polished cowboys. Instead, drunk farmhands slump in doorways. Children with bare feet wander streets littered with horse manure. The real West stank, both literally and figuratively. The Wild West was not glamorous. It was a war for survival. Water was scarce, diseases spread easily, and violence erupted over land, cattle, and pride. Photos of wooden coffins stacked beside wagon trails remind us. Death rode alongside every pioneer. But nothing shattered the Hollywood illusion more than the outlaw photos. Mugshots, funeral portraits, and hidden family images stripped away the romance, exposing the men behind the guns. Chapter 2: The Outlaws Caught on Camera. Rare photographs give us unfiltered looks at some of history's most infamous outlaws. Jesse James, for instance, is usually remembered as a folk hero, a Robin Hood figure, but in his funeral photograph, the romance evaporates. Lying stiff in a simple coffin, his once feared face is pale, lips drawn tight. Neighbors had gathered to gawk, children peering at the lifeless body. To them, Jesse was no legend, just another man brought low. Another shocking photo captures Billy the Kid, one of only a handful known to exist. In it, Billy leans casually against a gun, wearing a tattered hat and mismatched clothes. Far from the Hollywood rebel, he looks scrappy, almost awkward, just a teenager caught up in violence beyond his years. The image was once dismissed as worthless. Today, it's priceless, worth millions. Equally haunting are the wanted posters captured in surviving photos, grainy, mass-printed sheets nailed to wooden posts. One shows Butch Cassidy, his eyes mischievous even in mugshots. Another reveals Belle Starr, the so-called Bandit Queen, whose rare portraits show her in both elegant gowns and cowboy gear, blurring the line between outlaw and celebrity. But the most disturbing outlaw photos weren't glamorous portraits at all. They were death photos. In the 19th century, it was common to photograph dead outlaws as proof of justice. Piled bodies of bandits, displayed for townsfolk, were photographed like trophies. The message was clear. Crime didn't pay, and death was public. These images, rarely published then, speak louder than dime novel legends today. Chapter 3: Women of the West. Hidden, forgotten, exposed. The Wild West was a man's world. Or so the movies say. But rare photographs prove women shaped the frontier in ways often erased from memory. One haunting photograph shows a line of soiled doves, prostitutes, standing outside a shabby brothel in Leadville, Colorado. Their eyes are tired, their dresses cheap. For many, prostitution wasn't a choice, but the only way to survive in male-dominated boomtowns. Their images rarely survived because polite society wanted them erased. Yet here they are, frozen in history, a silent testimony to resilience. Other rare photos reveal female homesteaders gripping plows beside their husbands, faces sunburned, hands calloused. They worked land as hard as any man. One striking portrait shows a woman armed with a rifle across her lap. She wasn't posing for glamour, she needed that rifle to keep wolves, raiders, and sometimes even neighbors at bay. Then there were the notorious women outlaws. Belle Starr appears again, but also Pearl Hart, one of the few documented female stagecoach robbers. A surviving mugshot captures her young face, defiant eyes staring straight into the lens. She robbed a coach at gunpoint in 1899, scandalizing a society that wanted women to be silent homemakers. The photo circulated widely, but not without attempts to bury her legacy. Perhaps most startling are the forgotten photos of Native women, wives, daughters, and laborers, often unnamed. They stand at the edges of group portraits or serve white settlers in blurred backgrounds. Rare images bring them to the center, revealing dignity and survival in a world designed to erase them. Chapter 4. Native Americans Through the Lens. No story of the Wild West is complete without its greatest tragedy: the destruction of native nations. Rare photos, often taken by government surveyors or opportunistic photographers, capture a world in violent transition. One chilling photograph shows native children lined up in uniforms at a boarding school. Their hair has been cut short, their traditional clothing stripped away. The caption boasts civilizing the Indian, but the haunted stairs tell another story: cultural genocide, frozen forever in monochrome. Another forgotten photo reveals Lakota warriors surrendering at Pine Ridge in 1890, weeks after the Wounded Knee massacre. Posed for the camera, they appear defeated, weapons piled at their feet. Just beyond the frame, hundreds of their people had been slaughtered. The image was circulated in newspapers as proof of peace, but today it reads like an epitaph. Equally powerful are photographs of chiefs like Sitting Bull, Geronimo, and Red Cloud. Once feared leaders, later staged in spectacles for Buffalo Bill's Wild West show. Photos of Geronimo in a suit and bowler hat were used to tame his image, reducing him from warrior to curiosity. These photographs were meant to rewrite history, but instead, they preserve the dignity of men who resisted until the end. Perhaps the most heartbreaking are the images of native families displaced from their homelands. Wagons overloaded, mothers clutching infants, elders staring hollow-eyed at the horizon. These photos were rarely printed in the 19th century. Americans preferred to imagine the frontier as empty. But the camera did not lie. The frontier was not empty, it was emptied. Chapter 5. The Forgotten and the Ordinary. The rarest Wild West photos are not of famous gunfighters or battles. They are of the ordinary people history forgot. One image captures Chinese railroad workers, faces smeared with soot, muscles straining as they lay track across deserts. Without them, America's railroads could not have united the continent. Yet their photographs were buried, their names unrecorded. Another shows black cowboys in Texas, gathered for a rodeo in the 1890s. Nearly 1 in 4 cowboys was African American, but Hollywood erased them. Rare photographs, however, restore their presence, showing riders, ranch hands, and lawmen who helped build the frontier. Equally powerful are photographs of towns at their breaking points. One shows a lynching crowd gathered in New Mexico, smiling families posing beneath a hanging body. These photos were rarely published, considered too grotesque, yet they reveal the violence simmering beneath law and order. Then there are family portraits, unsmiling settlers in front of sod houses, children barefoot, mothers hollow-eyed, fathers gripping rifles. They weren't heroes or villains, they were survivors, ordinary people carving out life in an unforgiving land. These rare photos, tucked away in archives and private collections, were never meant to be seen widely. They contradicted the myth, exposing the brutality, diversity, and suffering of the real West. The Wild West has always been a story America tells itself, a story of courage, adventure, and freedom. But the photographs hidden in attics, archives, and dusty albums tell another story, one of poverty, violence, exploitation, and survival. They show the outlaw not as a hero, but as a corpse, the pioneer not as a conqueror, but as a starving parent, the native not as a savage, but as a dispossessed human being. These rare Wild West photos were never meant to be seen because they strip away the myth. But perhaps that's why they matter most. They remind us that history is not legend, it is lived, often painfully, by people whose faces still stare back at us across a century.